Hello, my name is Jess. I'm a librarian and I want to do this video on looking for stuff for a literature search, maybe for a dissertation topic or a general piece of research. This is how I would do it. This is not representing my workplace, the university I work in. I'm using sources that I am accessing through my university, but I'm no way saying that this is how everybody librarian would do it. There's loads of different ways of finding information. There's loads of different techniques that people use. It is up to you how you search. This is my recommendation. This is what I would do if I was given the topic to search for. So my topic that I am going to do now, I am a librarian for a school of education within the university. So education is kind of my speciality, as it were. So I am going to go for one of those questions. This kind of method that I'm doing would probably go with most of the social sciencey, educationy subjects, science, health, anything like that, engineering. You will have your own ways. I would encourage you to speak to your librarian if you're unsure how to use scientific databases, especially. I'm in no way an expert enough on that, and I would not feel comfortable doing a video. So I've chosen a topic that I am sort of familiar with because it's quite a popular one, and this is forest schools. And the question that I've kind of come up with was, how do forest schools improve young children's well-being? Forest schools are things that happen in some nurseries. They've been going since the 80s. The idea is to get children outside and learning in nature. So you spend all day outside. It doesn't have to be in a forest. It can be in the park, it can be, on a beach, wherever. But I think the original ones were started, I think, in Denmark, and they were in forests. And the children just go out and just do what they like in the woods, and it's safe. It is monitored. It's not like you just let loose in the wild. But the idea is that you're reconnecting with nature and you're being able to play in a less confined way. There's loads of theories about this. I am not an expert, but I've been asked by a fair few of my students to help in topics similar to this, so I thought this would be a good one for me to talk about in this video. So first thing I do is look at this question here, and I would look for my keywords. Keywords are what the question actually is looking for information about. So my keywords in this instance would be forest schools, and young children, and well-being. Okay, so the reason I've chosen those as my keywords is forest schools is what it's about, what the topic of interest is, and this is what we're looking at specifically within that topic is young children's well-being. And young children I'm going to put as my keyword because forest schools, as far as I know, are a nursery 2 to 5 year olds main kind of things it does with that, but there may be forest schools that happen in primary schools or secondary schools, I don't know. But young children is a good keyword for me to use as an example of thinking of synonyms. So when you have your question, first of all you find your keywords, then you think about other ways that people would describe what your keywords are, because everybody has a different vocabulary, everybody uses different language in different ways. Especially within academia, they're not going to use the same words that you would use if you were working in a setting, say, or if you're just talking to your friends. So young children, other ways of saying young children, there's thousands, infants, early years, that's one that comes up a lot, nursery, because these are the kind of age. I will say now as well, my typing and my spelling is pretty bad. It's also 3:30 on a Friday, so if I fumble in my typing, I'm sorry about that. There's loads, absolutely loads. You can go on. Forest schools themselves, words for that, outdoor learning. And a good thing about keywords, if you're not sure, if you don't know, and you say, I'm thinking forest schools and then I'm thinking outdoor learning, but I can't really think of any more off the top of my head. A good thing about keywords is that more will come up with you when you start looking for the literature. So if you don't know much about something, my best suggestion for you is just to start reading. Start reading as soon as you can. The more you read, the more you'll know. you can then, the more you read as well, you don't have to include everything you read in your literature review. So if you've got a really good range of resources to choose from, you can be a little bit more picky about which ones you include. One of the biggest questions, the most frequent questions I've got asked the last few weeks when I've been working with students on the dissertation is how many resources, how big is my reference list? I don't know. That's between you and your supervisor. You need to know, you know what makes a good literature review. What if you've covered all your bases, if you've covered the most important themes and the most important topics within your topic, you are the one who should decide that. It's your dissertation. Your supervisor may have a different opinion of that. I would suggest speaking to them and speaking to your personal tutors, maybe your academic support tutors if you have one. Get as much advice as you can. That's what people are there for. So I've got my keywords and my synonyms here. Last keyword, well-being. Well-being, I don't know. Synonyms for that, I'm not sure. If you don't know a synonym, again, it'll come up in the literature, but also you could find stuff. Now, you'll see here on my Tinternet, I've got several tabs open. I tend to work with a lot of tabs open when I'm searching for stuff for a literature review. First tab I've got, this is my library's, University of Huddersfield's Discovery Service. It's called Summon. I've already logged in. Every single library will have a different version of this. Most will have at least a catalogue you can search. Some will have a discovery service that looks like this. Some will have one that looks completely different. Speak to your librarian if you're not sure. But this is kind of my main portal into what we have in the library and access to. I've also got Scopus open, mostly because that's a database that I use an awful lot, so I want that open straight away. And you notice here at the top I have two tabs. Quite controversially, I am not a librarian who thinks that using Google Scholar is a bad thing. I use Google Scholar myself. I only started using this when I started working in HE. I find it incredibly useful. I don't use Google that much though, or at least I try not to. I mean, I do. Everybody does. But I try not to because Google remembers every single thing about you and uses it to sell you things. So I tend to try and use different search engines that don't remember your data and store it and sell it to companies for profit. This was called DuckDuckGo.com. It's a search engine. So I'm going to look up some synonyms for well-being here. Again, my typing, I apologise for. Well-being synonyms. Now, if you don't know what a synonym is, it's a word that means more or less the same as another word. So here I've got well-being, now noun, well-being, welfare. I don't know what that word is. I'm very doubtful I'm going to be using it. I couldn't even pronounce it, but I'm going to look at the top one, which is thesaurus.com, and have a look for some other synonyms here. So synonyms for well-being, that's words that mean more or less the same. Comfort, happiness. Happiness might be one that I want to use. Again, welfare comes up. Children's welfare as a phrase, that might be something that we might look at, so I'm going to make a note of that. But I'm going to leave that tab open so I can always look. Now, an antonym is an opposite of a synonym, so it's a word that means more or less the opposite of it. So disadvantage doesn't necessarily mean the opposite of well-being, but it more or less is. Handicap isn't really a word that people would use that much. Hindrance, loss. Antonyms, I'm going to ignore those for now, but I'm going to keep that page open so I've got my synonyms there. So what I do, I've got my question, I've got my words. What I do first of all, go to Summon. And I do not type the question in, because if you type in the question in, you are wasting your time. Most of these searches use similar techniques of searching. If you type in a sentence, they will look for every word in that sentence. Google, because of the way that it works and the way that people search, they know that people type questions into Google like it's Ask Jeeves. And so they will have websites that will have paid Google so much money to be at the top of the list when it comes to, because let's be honest, you're not going to look past the first page of Google. You're not going to look past the first 10, 20 resources that you come up with in Summon unless you're really, really dedicated and have lots of time. But if you want to do a really quick search like I'm doing now, so let's just have a look. Okay, so I'm going to put my keywords into Summon. So my keywords that I'm going to use are forest schools. I'm going to put a little star after school. This will then look for anything that starts with school or anything that So that would also include schools, because it could be Forest School or Forest Schools. That might not make much of a difference this time round, but it's a nice little tip. So if I put child with a star, it will look for anything that starts with child. So children, children's, childless, child's, lots. Now, when you're using this is called truncation. When you're using this, be careful that you don't like completely make a word have no sense, because if I do that, there's loads of words that start with ch rather than just child. So take it back to as much as you want. So if I wanted children's or children, I'd go children, and that will look children and children's, but I'm just going to put that for now. So Forest Schools, young children's wellbeing, so I'm going to put wellbeing there for a start. I might add young children to it if my first search doesn't come up with much, but I'm going to do my first search. So, as you'll see, this is the University of Huddersfield, so this is what my university has got access to. Doesn't mean that everybody's got access to it, this is just what we've got access to. So, first of all, I can see that they've got quite a lot of books. I've got a lot of results on this, and some of them are about well-being and outdoors. So I'm also going to put young children. I'm just going to put children in for now. Well, child with a star. See what happens when I do that. Okay, I've got a lot less results, and looking down them, not that useful. So I'm going to change up my keywords. Instead of putting young children's, I'm going to put in early years. Now this is because I know myself that early years is a phrase that is used a fair bit more in education literature than young children. And let's have another look. Wellbeing Awards, Wellbeing, Forest School for All. Some, not so much. Let's just take out wellbeing. You see what I'm doing is I'm doing lots and lots and lots of searches, and there's nothing wrong with that. You will not get this right first time, and that is fine. Let's just put in Forest School and early years and see what happens there, because well-being is the state we're hoping that they're going to have, but it's not necessarily what will happen. Here we go. Perfect. Okay, I love Forest School, transforming early years practice. Understanding the Forest School approach. This is the sort of things that you will want, because this will, what you'll then do is look for well-being within these. And it may be that they use other words rather than well-being. It might be that they talk about outcomes of Forest Schools, and you can say C if well-being was one of those outcomes. Risk and adventure, that's something that I'm going to remember for later. But you see, you're getting more relevant results. And I've done, what, 3 or 4 searches there? That's fine. It's fine to do that. Now, what I'm seeing here is that there's lots of books, e-books, not so many journal articles, but what I'm going to suggest doing is looking for journal articles, because books can give you a very big overview of a subject and you should definitely use them, but if you're looking for specific research, it tends to more to be in journal articles rather than books. So down the left hand side, now most catalogues will look similar to this. They will have facets, these are called, and these are things you can refine your search. If you've ever done any shopping online, it works exactly the same way. I want shoes that are flat in a size 7. So I am wanting stuff I can read online because I can't be bothered to go look for it. And I want journal articles. It remembers my keywords when I do it. Again, all your catalogues will work differently. But let's just go for it. Okay, so we've got here some journal articles there. Okay, some of them might be useful, some of them might be not. This paper outlines the role that Forest School can play in children's development. That, to me, looks really useful. I'm just going to click on it to make sure it does, and look, it opens in a new tab. You're going to end up with several tabs by the end of this. What I'm going to do now is show you what I would do in order to expand on my research. So I've always got my original search open in this tab. What I'm going to do is find something useful first of all, and then I'm going to show you how you would go forwards and backwards with this in order to expand your original search. So my original search, I've done several different searches and I come up with some fairly useful things. So the next video is going to be about how I would take it on from there.